I'm going to read you this first part out. An anti-corruption charity, bear in mind this is a BBC report, so we're lucky to get it. An anti-corruption charity says it has identified significant concerns in contracts worth over 15.3 billion awarded by the Conservative government. This was during the COVID era, the pandemic. That's the equivalent of basically £1 in every 3 that they spent is of concern. Now, we know that during this time, millionaires were created and multimillionaires became billionaires. There seemed to be a lot of people profiting on the back of the fact that we weren't doing so well because we were locked down and because exaggeration in government narrative pervaded by the media, who happened to be the government was the best customer of the media channels during that period. They spent the most money with them. No conflict of interest there then. So Transparency International is a charity. Transparency International UK found 135 high-risk contracts with at least 3 red flags, warning signs of a risk of corruption. Now, 28 contracts worth 4.1 billion went to firms with known political connections, while 51 worth 4 billion went through a VIP fast lane. Now, sometimes the VIP fast lane can be justified because of all the legislation involved in medical care. It can fast track something that's needed immediately. But the problem is there's been that much wasted on PPE and the passport that really, I don't think that applies in this instance. There's an awful lot that we should concern ourselves with. The biggest thing for me, why did anybody make any money? Why didn't people involved, whether they were making PPE or the drugs that went in your arm, why didn't they do it just covering the costs? It's an emergency. Why didn't you do it just covering your costs? Why did Pfizer have to make 100 billion in 12 months? It took them 25 years to make 40 billion. So why should they be allowed that? Why should a government indemnify a drug company and leave the public wide open to risk? Because that's what's happened. And unfortunately, this is why I balk when I see people like Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House, making those ridiculous claims in that interview about free speech, saying that we should, the government should clamp down on free speech on places like YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, because there's a counter-narrative. Well, he was the fool that was pushing this thing that went in your arm. He was recommending it. How dare he recommend it when it hadn't even been tested for transmission? It hadn't been tested for transmission, so how could you know you were protecting anybody with it? So you see, people like him, a Labour man, who I think is far worse than I ever thought possible, a man whose Twitter account is full of things like the Four Tops and music from the Soul days, the Twisted Wheel at Wigan. That's what his Twitter account's full of. And then he's got the Speaker of the House account that has more political things. I mean, these people aren't fit to be in charge of us. And the one thing I will always say, never ever listen to politicians about your health. You've got Sajid Javid, who was a banker. Matt Hancock, it rhymes with banker. Matt Hancock, who was formerly a digital minister. Well, and then all of a sudden they're in there enforcing legislation that completely transforms your life, either physiologically because you took something you were hesitant about and you've suffered from it, or by losing your job because you didn't do it. That's what happened to our care workers. We've got malnutrition in care homes and we sacked 40,000 of them because some idiot politician decided them were the rules. And this is why you shouldn't listen to them. This is why they have absolutely no right to demand what goes inside your body. The politicians, they flit about. They're like flies on shit. They go from this turd to the next turd and they're still eating it and spitting it out. That's how I see them. They have no damn right to get so involved in our personal lives and what goes on inside our bodies. Yes, okay, make sure the roads get repaired. Make sure that we're getting our feedback from different things. Stop spending our money overseas. Why should we have the winter fuel allowance cut? And this is why you've got to look out for fake concern, because they are full of it. These politicians are full of fake concern. During lockdown, what were they saying to you? Oh, don't kill Granny. Don't kill Granny. You mustn't meet Granny. You mustn't visit Granny. You mustn't let the kids go near Granny. You might kill her. You must have this unknown drug in your arm because you've got to protect Granny. Look at Granny now. Granny's just had a winter fuel allowance whipped from under her feet. Apparently it's all right to die from hypothermia, but, not a virus. Funny how they sort of like work it out, these politicians, isn't it? So what I'm doing, my job here today, is to make you wary of what the political voices say and how they're backed up by the media. What a sad state of affairs when you think the person who's standing up for free speech is Elon Musk. And the media should be right behind him because it's their revenue that will be affected by this because no one's listening to them anymore. No one's listening to the mainstream news because we can't trust them. Because we watch people, I don't even know how they can do it. I couldn't do that. I couldn't be a newscaster and open up with, and today President Biden said, because I would know that that man wasn't fit to be a president and he wasn't making any particular decisions. And if he was, he shouldn't have been because he's poorly, very poorly. So this is why I do this, because I need to remind everyone constantly. You've got to look at Zuckerberg, who's admitted to 20 million Facebook posts being censored regarding everything to do with the 3 years of hell that we went through because we were locked down and we had our families falling out with each other because some believed the government and some questioned it. And really, it's all questionable. Every single last thing they told us to do was questionable because most of it was guesswork. It wasn't based on science. And people have had their careers trashed for standing up to it. So we have to stand up to these people because they don't care. It's fake concern. Please don't believe a politician when he stands there saying what he's going to do for you. Most of them can't even be bothered with their own constituency. They'd sooner make a name for themselves on the world stage. They see themselves as so important. They want to be part of this global community, the movers and shakers of the world. When basically most ordinary people just want to get on with their life. They're law-abiding citizens. They're not breaking any rules. They're not causing any damage. I mean, I learned today that in a sanctuary city in America, they couldn't arrest a migrant for a crime simply because it was a sanctuary city. I mean, I don't think we do that here. But unfortunately, we are letting serious offenders, child sex offenders, out early. We're not even jailing them. We're not giving them jail time when they get found guilty. You make a tweet, and you're incarcerated without bail. And that's where we are in this country. That's where we sit in Great Britain. I did actually write a post on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm not sure. I'll give it a go. Maybe it will fly on here, I'm not sure. But I'll read it out to you. Politicians should have no right to force any medication into our bodies. They sacked care workers, 40,000 of them. They'd already invited replacements from overseas, simply for refusing a drug they were sceptical about. They were right to do so, and they're still alive. They came through this hysterical and highly profitable pandemic without using that substance. Politicians are cold, callous people, in the main, who have zero affinity with ordinary people. They aggressively pushed a drug they knew little about. In fact, they knew so little, they made up what they didn't know, just as long as they could get you to roll up your sleeve. They told you that you would kill Granny if you didn't accept it. Yet it had never been tested for transmission. Hancock, then Javid, then they disappear. Unaccountable, and for me, unforgivable. The government has ignored the pleas of cancer specialist Professor Angus Dalgleish, cardiologist Dr. Haseem Malhotra. Careers were trashed in the name of excessive profits, but governments protected the drug companies instead of the people. This man, currently in number 10, I fear, would have mandated this drug for all. Whoever heard of vaccinating people for anything after they've actually been infected by it? ADE. Google it. Gates did very well out of the last 3 years as he trolls governments with his begging bowl to push his questionable substances. Every drug you have ever used or purchased, from the popular painkillers to more sophisticated prescription drugs, come with a whole list of side effects and warnings to keep you safe. But not this latest therapy, presented under a more trustworthy name. This was whacked into your arm through exaggeration and fear from the media. Politicians and well-known faces who should hang their heads in shame. If this medicine worked properly, why were you conditioned to fear the ones that didn't take it? Do you step from a plane in the Far East fearing the mosquito after a yellow fever shot? I don't think so. Several American states are currently suing Pfizer for overselling the benefits of this questionable yet highly profitable product. Zuckerberg has admitted to censoring 20 million posts about this product and other issues at the behest of the Biden administration. That is a highly relevant point, as that is where a lot of people get their information. I say all this in the hopes that if there is a next time, you will think before you roll up your sleeve and listen to politicians about your own health. God damn them all. So it's very popular on Facebook and on Twitter. Twitter's always faster. But what I have noticed about the response on Facebook is, out of the people that have clicked love hearts and likes, there's at least 100 people who queued up multiple times to get this, who didn't take any notice of me when I was first blogging about it, and they're clicking like to a post like that. What does that tell you? It tells me that people are waking up. Fortunately, we have platforms like YouTube, which, whilst it doesn't want you to overstep the mark, we can discuss these things now, because it's in their own interest not to be seen as part of the stifling of information. And this is why I'm so angry with the likes of the Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, who comes across with his Lancashire accent as a favoured friend of the people. I don't see him like that at all anymore after his outburst in that interview. I'm not sure who was interviewing him, but basically saying that, you know, Twitter should be stamped out. Now, the thing is, he hasn't got the right to say that. He's not intelligent enough to come to that conclusion. He's just got lucky by servicing people in Chorley in Lancashire, which is round about where he's from. And he's been very lucky to get Speaker of the House. And the more I've seen him in public life, the worse he's become. I honestly thought he was one of the good guys. I don't think that anymore. Somebody like that should be looking at their own credentials and what gives them the right to recommend anything medical. You're a politician. Politicians in general stink because you'll say whatever it takes to keep you in your seat. You're lucky to be where you are, and you have no authority, no knowledge to recommend anything medical, especially something with hardly any testing. So I see him as a completely different character now, and unfortunately his party are the government. So we have to be careful, because the man in power now has absolutely zero affinity that I can see with the ordinary man. He's quite happy to tell you things are going to get worse. But they don't need to, because it all boils down to government spending. And the way they've blown money during the pandemic is unforgivable, especially on contracts that even this charity is saying are questionable. Red flags, that's a big statement. It's purveyed now by the BBC. So therefore, even if the BBC are running it, it's got to be bad for them to even pick up on it. And we all know the misinformation that we receive from the government and the media, and media voices like Esther Ranson and Edwina Curry and Piers Morgan, all these people that wanted just to keep the public profile going. Edwina got it wrong about eggs, Edwina got it wrong about George Major, and Edwina got it wrong about what's happened to us now. She didn't want to sit next to you on the train if you hadn't taken the medicine. Well, my question is this: how much faith did you have in the one you took? Because surely if it was that good, it should protect you from anything. Why is somebody who didn't take it a threat? You're not afraid of the mosquito when you get off the flight in the Far East when you've had your yellow fever shot. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think these politicians have an awful lot to answer to. They're in denial, they'll never admit it. If you want to have a look, if you're on Facebook, if you look at the post that I've just read out, and another one about how to spot fake concern, look at the thread, look at the stories on the thread. One woman's lost 20% of her vision, another woman's got a dead arm, another one's had to have a heart bypass, someone else has got myocarditis, someone else has got another health issue, someone else has got shingles, repeatedly, 6 times, because her immune system's shot at. Read the threads. People are putting their own stories up. That's research. That's research. Never mind what politicians tell you. I don't do stuff like this because I want to get paid. I do stuff like this because I don't want to end up in a position where someone's telling me, I couldn't think of anything worse than someone that doesn't know me, has never met me, doesn't know what I do for my own health, telling me to take something inside my body. That would be my worst nightmare. Because they don't know enough about me and how I react to things. I can't take codeine. I get breathing problems if I take codeine. That's on my medical records. But you don't know that. And some people have struggled with this recent thing that they've rolled out on everyone. With that particular issue. Oh, but no, it's safe, 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 safe. That's all you can say. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people who administered this were laymen with not 24 hours, a couple of hours over a couple of days training to put something. If you buy a house you don't like, you can put it on the market. If you buy a car you don't like, you can put it on the market. If you live with a husband you don't like, you can put him back on the market. If you put something inside your body, there's not a lot of going back, is there? While it's outside your body, you've always got a choice. And the one thing I do hold dear for myself is social distancing. Not because the government told me, it's something that I've done throughout my life. When I've been going anywhere to dinner parties or whatever, if somebody says, oh, you know, I'm full of cold, I say, well, I'm sorry, we're not going to come. I don't want to sit around a dinner table with someone preparing food me who's full of cold. That's just common sense. That doesn't need a label like social distancing. That's just you're full of bloody cold. Postpone it, you daft so-and-so. But that's just me because I actually take care of my health. I do as much as I can without penalising my body. I don't go on diets, I must admit. But I'm serious about this because it just stinks the way that these politicians have really got inside our lives like a corkscrew in a wine bottle. They're in there and they won't come out. Well, we want you to back off. We want you to make sure public services are available. We've got enough staff in the police, the fire service, the health service. We want to make sure everything's run right. Not you telling us all the things we can't do. And you telling us all the things we mustn't go to. We mustn't do this. Oh, we're going to take a drug now that's brand new, but we'll just tell you it works. I mean, how flagrantly cavalier is that? Some people think it's something worse than that. I know that. I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying, even if it's on the surface, it's cavalier, shoddy, thoughtless. These people are not fit. Not one single person in Parliament, from the Speaker to the Prime Minister to the Chancellor to any ministers to all the backbenchers, are fit or in a position to tell you to put anything inside your own body. And know that. They should not have that authority.